Liberalism, commonly acknowledged as the prevailing belief system in contemporary times, it is often asserted that every individual possesses inherent rights that governments must acknowledge, being endorsed by their populace. Furthermore, the principle of equality under the law is emphasized, alongside advocacy for free markets and competitive elections. Fascism. It is suggested that individuals, when divided, are weak, but when united under a common cause, whether it be the banner of a state, nation, or military, they become strong. This unity often takes on an authoritarian nature, characterized by a governing body that does not support the notion of multi-party elections and emphasizes a strong centralized authority, typically led by a dictator. Fascism, as an ideology, also embraces ultranationalism, which prioritizes national interests over those of other nations. This mindset often aligns with militarism, advocating for a robust military to advance national goals and values. Fascism employs forceful hierarchy to suppress opposition and promotes sacrificing individual interests for the perceived greater good of the nation or race. Nazism, a form of fascism, embodies these principles. Anarchism. Anarchism is a belief system that promotes the idea of a society devoid of rulers or established authorities. Prioritizing the concept of freedom, it calls for the elimination of the state in favor of stateless communities and voluntary cooperation. Syndicalism. Syndicalism. It is an offspring of socialism and asserts that the organization of workers into unions, the formation of decentralized revolutionary worker groups known as syndicates, and the pursuit of workers' demands through strikes and direct action are the most effective means to attain a socialist society. Once a post-capitalist society is established, a congress or commune of syndicates would be established to represent various unions or sectors of the economy, rather than a centralized government advocating for corporatism. Socialism? Socialism, various forms of socialism, fall under this broad category, traditionally describing worker-owned means of production, emphasizing worker coups, democratic self-management, and workplace democracy. In contemporary times, socialism advocates for workers' democratic self-management, imposing high taxes on the wealthy and the nationalization of essential industries. A central tenet is social ownership. Within this framework, syndicalism is another approach. Progressivism. Progressivism asserts that traditions originating from the past should not be revered and prioritized over societal advancement. It stands in contrast to traditionalism. Populism. Populism is centered on appealing to a broad audience and their sentiments, asserting that the desires of the masses should dictate political decisions. It can manifest in various forms, as its main criterion is to represent a movement by and for the people. This lack of specific political affiliation often associates it with democracies, relying on popular support. Populism typically creates a divide between the general populace and the elite, often exhibiting anti-establishment and anti-political sentiments. Republicanism, on the other hand, revolves around a system of government that opposes hereditary rule, favoring political power vested in citizens within a republic. Separatism. Separatism, also frequently referred to as secessionism, aims to create a distinct nation, country, sovereign state, or government independent from an established nation. Moderatism. Moderatism tends to align itself with the boundaries of the Overton window, denoting the spectrum of policies deemed politically viable by the majority of the population. Generally, moderates are considered apolitical, indicating a lack of strong political affiliation, although they may possess some basic knowledge of political matters. Communism. Communism revolves around the concept of collective ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange, ensuring that goods are distributed to all members of society according to their needs. In a communist society, private property, social classes, currency, and the state are absent. Libertarianism. Corporatocracy, libertarianism, values liberty as a fundamental principle. striving to enhance individual autonomy and political freedom. It advocates for minimal government intervention and aligns with the principles of liberalism, including equality under the law and fundamental rights such as life, liberty, and property. Corporatism. Corporatism promotes the structuring of society into various sectors of employment, such as agriculture, military, engineering, etc., where individuals are allocated based on their preferences. It involves a system of regulation in which workers, employers, and the state engage in negotiations to effectively manage the economy and ideally fulfill the interests of all involved parties. It's important to note that corporatism does not entail a political system dominated by large business interests. That concept would be referred to as a different term. Feminism? The concept aims to define and ensure political, economic, personal, and social equality between genders. It asserts that societies often prioritize the male perspective, leading to unjust treatment of women. Efforts to address this issue involve combating gender stereotypes and enhancing educational and professional opportunities for women. Capitalism. Capitalism is an economic framework founded on private ownership of production resources and their utilization for profit generation. Key features of capitalism include private property rights, unrestricted trade, competitive markets, specialization of labor, and societal collaboration. Imperialism. Conservatism holds a stance on imperialism, where it's often associated with Theodore Roosevelt's advocacy for a nation's imperialism. Imperialism is characterized by its promotion of warfare and the belief in dominant nations ruling over weaker ones. Advocates of imperialism often justify their actions by arguing that colonized people benefit from the support of wealthier nations, receiving assistance and resources they wouldn't typically have access to.